Welcome to the Creative Cash Flow Show. I'm your host, Jesse Mills, where we share real estate secrets for achieving time and money freedom every week. And boy, am I excited because I've got a rock star guest today that I'll tell you what, if you've ever thought it's scary to talk to an attorney, it's super expensive, or it's maybe not necessary, they're all out to get you, they don't think like you, I'm going to prove you wrong with my guest today. She's going to blow your mind and definitely someone you need in your back pocket. So enjoy the show. Welcome to the Creative Cash Flow Show. I'm your host, Jesse Mills, where we share lifestyle and financial freedom tips every single week, helping you to create your own lifestyle and financial freedom. And I've got with me today my very special guest, Andrea Sager from Legalpreneur. And I'll tell you what, guys, if you've ever thought that getting legal advice isn't needed or is scary or is expensive, you are in for a treat today. You're in for a treat for today. Andrea, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited about this.
Yeah, I tell you what, when I saw your profile and we have a lot of shared friends in the same network, and I saw what you're doing, I'm like, okay, I love this because she's taking her background and her niche and her specialty, but really like kind of stacking it with entrepreneurs and with business owners, and it's kind of like you talk to people and they're very in their thing, but they don't get what you really do. And you're doing both, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
So
I've had a ton of clients that have actually come to me over the years and they're like, oh, I tried to use my dad's lawyer or this family referral, and they just didn't understand how they made money. And so it helps, not even just the fact that I'm a lawyer that knows the creative space, but I'm also on the other side of it, a multi-passionate entrepreneur. I've seen every side of the coin and I love every bit of it.
That is awesome. That is awesome. So I want to know all about you, your background, what got you into law, what got you, how you started the Legalpreneur, great name, by the way. And one of the things that, people need to think about you when they're, starting a brand new business or maybe already in a business and like, shoot, I've never really done a trademark search, or I've never really had anything look to be copywritten before, or am I doing this the right way or the best way?
Yeah.
When should people be thinking about you?
Yeah. So funny enough, I just had a phone call this morning with somebody who's been in business since 2010.
Okay.
And she's like, I never even thought about getting a trademark. And somebody went after her, started their business after her and got the trademark. And then they made her change the name. And she didn't know about me and didn't know. I was like, you were in business first, girlfriend. Like, you shouldn't have changed your name. But long story short, she essentially went to another attorney first, and it was an older gentleman. And she was like, I just don't feel supported. I don't feel like he really understands me and my business. Mm-hmm. And I can't tell you how many people I have had that have told me that they've come to me from another attorney. And getting back to like how I got started, I started my first business in law school. Not that I wasn't busy enough, but I was poor and I needed to make money. In
That's
your
a
first
hustle
year,
right there.
Right. In your first year of law school, you're actually not allowed to work. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I have to make money. Like, I'm not used to being this poor. Because in college, I actually didn't live like a poor college student. I was actually in the Army. I did ROTC. Wow. I worked. Like, I was rolling in the dough in college.
Good for
you.
So
then I go to law school where I'm not making any money. So I start my first business. It's an online clothing boutique. I started selling on Poshmark, and because when I was in college, I spent all my money on clothes. And so I started selling those clothes on Poshmark, and then I basically sold everything. Wow. And I started flipping clothes from the thrift store.
Flipping clothes. Love it.
It was so fun. And even now I'll catch myself. I'm like, I wonder if I can go like find that good deal. Yeah. But now, then after I was flipping, I decided to open my own clothing boutique. Mm-hmm. And so I started buying wholesale clothing and then selling it. And so I had the boutique. I started online, opened a brick and mortar store. I even manufactured clothing. Like, I've done it all. Wow. Like, I worked my up there.
Jeez Louise. While you're in law school.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yes, while I was in law school. But my dream job was to work at the big firm. So I loved Suits. I'm a huge fan of Suits, the
Nice.
show.
Yeah.
And I wanted, the big fancy office. And I was in Cincinnati at the time.
Okay.
And I did. I got the dream job. I was on the 38th floor in Cincinnati. I could actually watch a Cincinnati Reds game from my office, which I thought was the coolest thing.
That's pretty
because I'm a huge baseball fan. I'm a huge Astros fan.
Nice.
But I still thought it was cool to watch a baseball game from my office. Like just look out the window, because day games I would just watch the baseball. Like it was the coolest thing.
That's super cool.
I was absolutely miserable. I remember sitting there my first week, and so I did the summer internship, and they spoil you, and you're like, oh, this is great. And then I remember the first week I actually started there, it hit me. I was like, oh my gosh, all these men walking around in these 3-piece suits have been here since they were my age, and they're like 70. I was like, holy shit, like I don't want to be here for the next 40 years of my life.
Yeah.
And that
when you thought you wanted that so bad.
Oh, absolutely.
You
like
totally
I
thought
did.
you wanted that.
I mean, I come from like my parents retired from the post office. Nobody in my family even graduated from high school. And so like I thought that was the dream, like go get the big fancy job and make over $100,000 right out of the gate. So I had it, and I thought I was set for life. And then I was like, holy shit, like I am miserable.
Like, no, I don't want that.
Yes. And I had
did.
my son, he actually just started kindergarten today.
Oh,
he was 8 months. He was 8 months old when I started. And my now ex-husband, he was staying home with him at the time. And I remember coming home, and he was like, well, you just gotta, like, can you just stick it out for a little bit so we can get back on our feet, or just figure something out?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, I'll try to figure it out, but I don't know how long I'm going to last. And what happened was a lot of those business owners that I met from the boutique, they were constantly coming to me for help. And they typically, what they needed was a trademark. And normally they couldn't afford the rates because it was a big firm, big rates. But finally, I had somebody that was like, I don't care how much it is. I just want to work with you. I'm like, great. I'm a first-year associate. They're going to love me being a rainmaker. Like, this is it. Like, this is what I'm going to do. Like, this is my place in the firm. And I literally had a partner tell me to my face, this is a small business. We don't want them. They're not quality clients. And I think a lot of us have this big defining moment in our life. And that was it for me. I will never forget standing there in his office and him just like throwing this report at me over like basically the intake. And I'm like, they're not even asking for a discount. They need help. Like and so I saw this constant flow of people needing help, but nobody to help them. So I thought, I'm like, oh, cool. Like I can go help them. But of course, my husband at the time was not supportive of it, which I get it. Like I was the only one making money, and I didn't know if I was going to make money. And so I remember we had put our house for sale to move down to Houston, and I was just going to get a job down here or figure something out. And it was a Wednesday, and I was texting him like, I'm so miserable. I want to quit. And he said, just wait until we have a contract on the house. Once we have a contract. And I was like, you know what? I can do that. Like, that makes sense. At least we'll know the house is going to sell. That's a Wednesday. And I literally was ready to quit. And on Friday, my boss and my mentor walk into the office. And as soon as they walked into my office, I knew that I was getting fired. And it took everything in me not to have a smile on my face, because I'm like 5 minorities rolled into one. And so I knew. I tell people that I manifested getting fired because I knew they would have to give me a severance package. And so I got the severance package, and that was the best day of my life. I was so excited because I knew, okay, great. Now I have even more of a cushion to hold us over, to get me started with my own firm. And so I literally walked out of the office that day. That night, I started posting in like all the Facebook groups where I knew the boutique owners were. And I had my first client that night. And
that's awesome.
My law firm was born.
No way. That is freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. So you are a hustler, obviously. And I love, and you know what? That's such a great reminder for people, right? You and I know this as business owners. Sometimes you just have to be ready to pivot. And you have
Yeah.
to, I mean, I'm sure that was not easy for you, even to yourself, like just to, look yourself in the mirror and say, wow, I always wanted this. I thought I wanted this. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden, I don't want this. And to go, you know what? It's okay. I'm going to go a different direction. And you did that,
Mhm.
which is awesome. And you did it quickly. And
Yeah,
and
it's
and and you were
I will
pumped about
never
getting fired,
forget.
which is great.
Oh, so excited. And I will
Yeah.
never forget the day that I called my parents and I was
Mhm.
like, I want to quit my job because I started in October and I think this was like January that I called them and I was like, I want to quit. I hate it. And my dad was like very supportive. He was like, well, if that's what you want to do, like you'll like it'll be
Yeah.
okay. And
Uh,
my mom, she's like, no, you can't quit. Like she's crying and I'm like, thanks for the support, mom.
yeah, they have my
But
back.
yeah. I
Appreciate it.
mean, now she's all excited about everything I have going on, but it was really hard, really admitting and giving myself permission to not stay there at that firm.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure that could not have been easy, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people would say, "Well, this is, what I went to school for, and this was my plan, and I got this. I should just be happy I got this and
Mhm.
stay, and then just be slowly getting more miserable for years and years and years and decades." But I mean, good for you for seeing it right away, right? Like you saw, like,
Yeah.
it didn't take you years to figure out. You're like, no,
Yeah.
I don't want to be that old guy or gal at 65, 70 in the same stinking office doing the same thing, and again, and that's your path, right?
Yeah.
That's what you thought. There's nothing wrong with that if someone else wants that, but you just felt, hey, for me, that's not what I want.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
honestly,
And you
people
and
ask me
people were
like
seeing we're not getting help. Sorry. And people, that you
yeah.
were wanting to help and they couldn't get it.
Exactly, and
It's not
people
market.
would always ask, "Why did you go to law school? Why did you wanna be a lawyer?"
Mm.
Honestly, because I wanted to make a fuck ton of money,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Oh, great, I'm making all this money," but then I realized it's really not that much money, and then I realized I could make a lot more money out on my own,
Right.
and so that's what I went and did.
That is awesome. That is awesome. You know what? So anyone who's listening right now, too, especially if you're high school or college, or thinking about going back for a second career, I want to impart this real quick because as a proud college dropout, yet I went for like 5.5 years. I'm like Van Wilder, right? Love school. I went forever, but I never actually got the paper. I didn't graduate. Don't have that degree in my communications degree, whatever would have that
Mhm.
have given me anyways, right? But I remember when I get in the mortgage business in my early 20s, I spent about 15 plus years in the mortgage business, and I was doing a loan for a fellow friend who's an attorney, and I remember just being like shocked. I'm like, dude, that's all you make? Like again, not being a jerk about it, but I just in my head I thought like every attorney was just
Mhm.
rich and crazy, and I'm like, your student loan debt is like 4 times mine, and
Mhm.
you make less than I do, and you're an attorney, and how much school did you do? I'm like, it's not so. A lot of people just don't know, right? They just want the
Yep.
money, or they don't even understand how much debt they're gonna have to go into to get
Yep.
that, to realize they don't want to do it. So do some exploration, right? Think about what you
Yes.
really like, what you're passionate about, what you love, because yeah, but you're being able to take your background and now carve it into what you do, which I think is really cool. So you're
Yeah.
using it, totally using
I
it.
am. Yeah.
Yeah, totally
And
using it. And you can resonate with people way better now.
oh, absolutely. And I think what I always say, I used to say it screwed me by having the business before starting at the firm, the boutique, but I
Hmm.
really think that was the best thing that could have ever happened because I think I really would have been stuck at that point at the
Hmm.
big firm because I wouldn't have known anything else. But at that point, I knew like, oh, I can make money working on my own. I can make money doing whatever. Like, I'll just make more money.
Yeah.
And so what I learned was that I'm just a serial entrepreneur and I just love businesses.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. So how did you kind of pivot from there? So talk to us.
Yeah.
So you have multiple things going on. You have a book coming out, right?
Yep.
You're doing an event. So tell me all about this. I want to hear
Yeah.
all about it.
So I grew the law firm really quickly. I mean, I made $1 million within 2 years and it made $1 million
Damn.
every year after.
For
But
you.
when I left my ex-husband, what I realized was it was all essentially a trauma response. All this like, oh, to achieve
Hmm.
for more love. which, and I've done all the, like, so much healing work since I left my ex-husband. And what happened last year was that I was no longer motivated with the law firm. And I think it was because I felt like what I uncovered was that the law firm, I think, was for me to achieve, and hopefully have that happy marriage, which never was going to happen anyway. But because of that, I was just like, what am I doing this for? I'm not happy. And even now looking at what I'm doing with Legalpreneur, I'm also like, man, I was literally making $1 million working 20, maybe 30 hours a week because I built a team, a really good team. But
Nice.
I wasn't happy. I wasn't fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
And so last year I actually had another business last year. I'm actually in a poker club right now.
Nice.
I used to own it.
Okay. Sweet.
And I bought this last year, built it up, literally like built it up overnight. And then I sold it and made like 10x of what I bought it for within 3 months.
Good for you.
Well, and then at that point, I'm just like, what am I doing? Like, I have to figure out what I want, because I wasn't happy with the law firm, but I knew I wanted to be building something. I'm an entrepreneur. I knew I had to be building something. And actually at Chris Harder, I've been in his mastermind, Chris Harder's mastermind, for a while.
Okay.
And last year at our last event, I wasn't going to show up. I was just like, I have too much going on. I was selling the club. I was in the middle of selling the club. I had too much going on with the law firm, like just way too much going on. And I was like, I don't have time. I'm just not going to go. And he's like, okay. And he had constantly been telling me, Andrea, good is the enemy of great. Because I kept telling him, like, I'm good. Like, things are fine. I'm just like coasting. And
one of the many reasons I love Chris.
Yes.
And Lloyd. They're awesome.
He always told me that. He was like, Andrea, good is the enemy of great. And right now you are good. So what happened literally a week before the event, my best friend, who is my COO, her dad passed away. And she calls me at 5 a.m. And she's like, hey, I'm just calling to let you know I'm at the airport. My dad passed away. And so that, like, she's my absolute best friend, my CEO, like my everything. So that happened. And then my other best friend, who was my partner in the club, found out his son had cancer. Literally find this out within 24 hours of each other. And I'm just like, holy shit, like, what's going on?
Wow.
And so obviously it was not like my dad that passed away. It wasn't my kid that had cancer, but my two very best friends in the entire world. Like, I just felt so heavy, and I was like, holy shit, like, I have to get away. And I was like, oh, I have a trip booked. So I ended up going to the mastermind meetup in Phoenix, and I show up and I'm just like, I'm here just to get away. Yeah. And that's when it finally hit me. I was like, I'm just trying to figure out what's next. And then it hit me because Legalpreneur at the time was just this little side hustle, side project. And before I left my ex-husband, I actually had this plan. I was like, oh, that would be so cool to build up Legalpreneur, be this huge company. I no longer have to be the servicing attorney. And then I realized at the mastermind meetup, I was like, holy shit, like, I'm sitting on my next project. It's finally time to go all in, because literally what happened, I launched Legalpreneur and I was going to build it up then. And I was like, I think I need to get a divorce instead. And so I did.
Like, well, hold on. Which one should we do first? Okay. Check that off the list. Yeah.
So then it hit me. I was like, oh shit, like, I'm sitting on it. So late last year, I realized, okay, it's time to go all in with Legalpreneur. And I was finally to the point where it wasn't just building for somebody's love. It's now I'm building Legalpreneur because I want to build it. And we're building out so much with this company, and it's amazing. It's stressful, like ups and downs, like none other, but it's great because I'm doing it because I want to do it. And I'm not looking for anybody's love. I'm doing it because I love myself and because I can. And I grew the law firm within 2 years to $1 million. And so now I sell Legalpreneur for $1 billion one day. So the goal now is just to keep building, and people are like, why not? Like, because I honestly, I mean, I could sell it for a pretty number right now, but I'm just like, why not? Like, I have one life to live, and I know I can build. And so let's just see if I can sell it for $1 billion.
That is freaking awesome. That is, you don't really dream small, do you?
No, I don't.
You don't really do anything small.
That's one of my toxic traits. I'm just like, yeah, let's just see if we can do it.
Yeah. Well, you know what? You obviously miss 100% of shots you don't take, right? Quote by Mr. Wayne
Yep.
Gretzky. And it's true. And a lot of people who are playing big in their world and with their people really are not to their level, right?
Hmm.
And I think that's totally kind of what you're talking about. And that's a lot of the reason why I go to a lot of masterminds and events and do coaching and get in the rooms with other people where I'm like, okay, you know, like some of my best months are these guys' worst months. So
Yeah.
what the heck are they doing? Right. And what can I learn from them? And how can I get to that next level where I say, okay, it's kind of like, actually, it's funny, something that Chris says, like your financial thermostat, right?
Yes.
Like you
Yep.
set your financial thermostat, and your tendency is to always go back to that number, whether it's hours a week you work or income that you're making, and it'll pull you up, right? If you start slouching, it'll pull
Hmm.
you up, but you almost self-sabotage yourself if you start doing too well and you come back.
Yeah.
You really got to rewire that to say, no, you know what, this is my number, this is what I'm capable of, this is what I want to do. And so yeah, you're setting that thermostat up, you're cranking it.
I'm trying, but that's exactly what happened with the law firm. I just got too comfortable and
Mhm,
I was just no longer motivated. Like I don't want to say depressed because I wasn't
mhm.
depressed. I was just like,
It
I'm
wasn't
good.
filling you up though. It wasn't just,
Yeah.
yeah, you didn't have a zest.
Yeah.
Well, I love you say too, like
Exactly.
you could sell it right now and do very well, right? But I mean, at the end of the day, what are you gonna do? Take that money and then go start another business and go do
Yeah.
something else, because that's what entrepreneurs do. We
Hmm.
see problems, and we try to have solutions and create products and services that make things better for people and make
Yeah.
money at the same time, right? So
Yeah.
that's what I talk to a lot of investors about too. Like, well, I might just go sell all this. I'm like, okay, what are you gonna do? You're gonna sit on it? Let's at
Yeah.
least put it in something new, or let's make it do better, right? Whatever.
Right. And that's exactly where my headspace is right now. Like a couple of weeks ago, because there's so much. Let me tell you, transitioning from a small business to a startup, I knew it was going to be hard,
Yeah,
but it's fucking hard.
yeah.
And I like a couple of weeks ago, I was like, oh my gosh, I miss the days of working 20 hours a week,
Mhm.
having way more than enough money because
Yeah.
we've been raising a seed round, but it's been all angels because I didn't want VC money. Like eventually I will need VC money, but right
Mhm.
now I'm not that. I don't want that pressure from them because we're comfortable. We're fine, but it's not like where I personally had way more than enough money.
Mhm.
I'm just like getting by and
Kind of bootstrapping right now.
oh, it's like the small angel round and then really just bootstrapping and a lot of sweat equity, which was the only thing I had building the law firm.
Yeah.
But now there's a lot more pressure, a lot more to do because it's not just, oh, we're doing these legal services. We have the Legalpreneur membership, and then we're also building up products and services for attorneys.
Mhm.
And we also have we're working on a payment processor. Like there's so
Wow.
many things that we're building. So there's so many things that are happening. It's like, where is my headspace today? Like, what do I have to be focusing on today?
Yeah.
So I will tell you, like going from a small business to a startup, a tech
Mhm.
startup, like it is a completely different ball game and it is not for the faint of heart. I will tell you that.
You got to totally shift how you're thinking, right? And just
Oh yeah.
expectations and just everything. I'm sure that is
Yeah. And
wow.
then writing the book and
Yeah.
having the conference this year
What is
because
your
the
book about?
goal so the book is Legalpreneur, the business owner's guide to legal protection.
Mhm.
And because many business owners do not know what they need to know about legal protection. So we put a
Mhm.
lot of free information out there. I have a podcast, a lot of free info on Instagram, TikTok, everywhere. But if you want all the answers, you have to go find it. So the book's just going to be the one place you can go and get all the answers that you need.
That's awesome. I love that. How long you been working on that?
This year.
This year? Okay.
So
Good for you.
late last year when I decided to go all in with Legalpreneur, there were the two things that were heavy on my mind were the book and then the conference. And the
Okay.
conference is really, I want it to just be an industry conference for business owners, entrepreneurs that need to dream bigger. And it's growing personally to get to your best business wise. And because I realized over my own healing journey that the more personal work I did personally, the better the business did. And so
Yes.
I want it to be an industry conference for people to also realize like hey, yes, we are a company founded on legal protection, but we're not scary. We're not intimidating. We
Yeah.
like to have fun.
Yeah.
So it's really just breaking down that barrier of intimidation when it comes to the legal stuff.
I love that. I love that. So who is a good fit for this and when is it? And give us the details.
Any business owner, any wannabe entrepreneur, it
Okay.
is October 5th through the 7th in Phoenix.
Okay.
We are having a ton of amazing speakers. So Allie Webb, co-founder of Dry Bar, she is our keynote speaker.
Sweet.
She's doing like a double buyout with Dry Bar, so she's sold her majority share.
Wow.
And so I like now I'm just a huge fan of anybody who can build and sell. So she's
Yeah.
coming, and then Danielle Canty, she's the co-founder of Boss Babe.
Okay.
And then we have Wayne Purnell. He's a amazing, amazing executive coach. Chris Harder, obviously, he's going to be
Mhm.
speaking, and then a
Awesome.
ton of other amazing just entrepreneurs that you didn't know you needed in your life.
That's just it, right? A lot of time, you know what? You got to just get in the room and you got to just,
Mhm.
block out the calendar, invest in yourself and get there.
Mhm.
And you don't know what's going to come from it. But I mean, almost always, I don't think there's been one thing I've been to in the last 4 years that I haven't said, okay, that was worth every minute and dollar I spent.
Yep.
Right now, I'm sure like you, like I make it worthwhile, right? I don't just sit there in the corner and not talk to anybody and don't take any notes and don't implement
Yeah.
stuff, right? Like my goal is always like, okay, what's one really good, genuine, authentic connection that I can gain from this,
Yep.
or who's someone I can help, or who's someone that we can collaborate together, and that my investment is back 100%, or 2, 3, 5, 10x, right?
Yeah.
Um, but it's funny because when you mentioned earlier, I was thinking about this actually a few weeks ago at an event that I just went to. And you said, you almost didn't go to this event, right? And there's been times I'm like, I am just slammed. I got so much stuff going on. I do not have time for this at all. Can't keep up with the list I've got, let alone going into this thing for 3 days, 5 days, right? And the events, I mean, you're off the grid kind of,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like it's classroom networking, it's
Mhm.
dinners, it's cocktails, it's you're off the grid.
Yeah.
So, but when you go, like every time I'm like, oh my God, I'm so glad I went to that. And it turns to this
Yes.
conversation and led to that thing and led to that thing. And then I'm like, oh, if I didn't go, I'd be so pissed at myself.
Yeah.
So pissed. But
Well,
I almost didn't
you
because I was so busy,
y
you know?
you wouldn't you honestly probably wouldn't be mad because you wouldn't know what you missed out
True.
on.
That's actually true.
And
Yeah, I guess
it's
so.
it's so important, like you said, to just be in the room and just be open. Just be
Yeah.
open to new experiences, new people. Like I mean, obviously we're coming up on conference season. Next week I'll be in Dallas for Podcast Movement, and that's our biggest return on conferences. Because it obviously like a new creative space, everybody needs help there. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but
Totally.
I love Podcast Movement. If you're a podcaster and you haven't been there, I think it's a
I
great
haven't.
conference no matter what kind of podcaster you are, where you are, if you just want to start a podcast. I always tell it is probably one of the best, like most well-ran conferences I've ever been to. And we sponsor it every year, like well worth the money.
Sweet.
But yeah, I'm excited for conference season this year. Just I
Yeah.
love connecting and
I know.
finding new people, and especially post-COVID. It's like, oh,
Right.
thank God, human connection again.
I know. I know. The Zoom thing is fantastic, but I can't wait till be, giving you some ducks and in person, right? And you
Yeah.
got to get that human connection and just be around other people. And it really is an energy that's hard to replace.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is. It's getting busy. I'll be out in Vegas, I think, the week that same week, but maybe right after. So I'm gonna see if I can get that in.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
you should.
yeah, as a married man with kids, I
Yeah.
get sprinkles of getting away, and then Daddy gets in trouble if I'm gone too much,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, gotta watch that. Gotta watch that. Okay, so I'd love to hear from you because you're the legalpreneur,
Yep.
right? And I guarantee you, it's what you don't know. Is the biggest thing sometimes that can be a problem that can hurt you, or that could be helping you that you don't know of, right?
Mhm.
So, what's some of the stuff that you see that people are probably just so oblivious to the fact they don't know that they need, right?
Yeah. So I think number 1 is a trademark,
Okay.
especially in the online space. And really the online world is why trademarks are so important today. So I mean, 10, 15 years ago, trademarks weren't as important as they are today because most
Hmm.
people weren't online. And what makes you eligible for a federal trademark is doing business in more than one state. So if
Mhm.
you are a real estate investor who just
Mhm.
does local flips or you teach people in person locally, you're actually not eligible for a federal trademark.
Mhm.
However, the moment that you're online and you have a client in Florida and you live in
Mhm.
Texas, what do you know? You're now eligible for federal trademark protection. And so if you have that trademark, you can police it yourself online. And what a lot of people, what I hear, especially what comes from a lot of older attorneys, they're like, oh, it's not worth it if you can't even pay to sue somebody and you don't want to waste your money on that. I understand that mindset, but it's an
Mhm.
old mindset
Mhm.
because if you really, it was the big box stores and the national companies that needed trademark protection. But now, once you're online, you need a trademark. So, what
Mhm.
about somebody who's doing, you know, me doing legal protection, somebody that has a similar name, like the legal entrepreneur
Mhm.
that's in New York, I'm in Texas, that's trademark infringement. Even though it's not the same exact name, if it's something similar, that's what is trademark infringement. And that throws a lot of people off. And so they think, oh, I can add the or make it plural. No, no, no. All those things are still trademark infringement. And because a lot of people don't realize that, they get in trademark trouble
Wow.
and have to rebrand. That costs money.
Mhm.
And it's just a huge headache that you don't want to have to deal with. But when you handle the trademarks from the beginning, it takes care of a lot of the headaches that could potentially happen down the road. So
It could be some big
definite
headaches.
yeah.
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 Wow. Yeah, and so I'm just thinking, I mean, as a newer entrepreneur business, if you don't have it and you plan on getting big, which no one says, I'm gonna start a business and just
Yeah.
be small, right?
Yeah.
So if your goals are to do anything, that includes growing, which it should be 100%, you're gonna have to deal with it at some point, and you're gonna want to
Mhm.
deal with it. So do it right away before all of a sudden you have to start changing stuff. And yeah,
Yeah.
and
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 the
if
thing
and if you
about
have been around for a
yeah.
while and you're not doing it, so like you said at the beginning of the show, right? Somebody could try to sue you because
Yeah.
you're infringing on their trademark and you don't even know it because you just didn't
Yeah.
take the time to check it out.
Exactly.
Wow.
And what's really beneficial about the online space
Mhm.
is once you have a federal registration, you don't even have to get with an attorney to enforce it online for you. So you can go online and petition Instagram, Facebook, wherever the infringing mark is, and
Mhm.
submit a trademark takedown. And this also works for copyrights. But once you have that federal trademark registration, you can submit that takedown and they'll actually just remove it. So they'll remove the page on Facebook, the group on Facebook, the page on Instagram, wherever it is. Basically they do this, these
Mhm.
platforms, they'll cooperate with you because if not, they can then be also be sued for trademark or copyright infringement. And they'll be
Wow.
spending, you know, billions of dollars every year fighting these lawsuits. So basically there's this safe harbor for
Mhm.
these online platforms that host third party content where hey, if you abide by these reporting forms, then you can't be sued for infringement.
Wow. Okay. That's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge. Okay, so but isn't like dealing with that and attorneys expensive and it's always this like crazy dollar per hour amount and right? How does that work?
Yeah, so once I left the big firm, I vowed to never charge hourly ever again as long as I could help it.
Oh,
So
wow.
personally, we try to stick to completely flat fees. There are attorneys that still charge hourly, but I
Mhm.
just think it's a very archaic model. And especially once you know, like, hey, once you have trademarks down, you
Mhm.
shouldn't have to pay hourly. You know how long it's going to take you. And when it comes to doing the trademark, I like to tell people, look, everything is figure outable.
Mhm.
And if you're the DIYer, you have way more time than money. You can figure it out how to do it on your own. And then you just have to pay the government filing fee. Now, I will say, like, the first time that you do it on your own, it probably will take a number of hours. But if you have a number of trademarks that you want to file and you're like, I just want to learn this myself, it absolutely can be done. So you can, I mean, you can teach yourself. We have a trademark course for people that just want to learn how to do it themselves.
Mm.
And so there's a ton of DIY resources out there. And then of course, if you want to make sure like the expert's getting it done, it's getting done correctly, then you just pay an attorney.
Nice, nice. That's awesome. Okay, so you teach people how to do it. You have a course. So if they want to be, cheaper or budget friendly, or they just want to know how to do it, they can go that route. Or
Hmm.
if you're like me, running around with your hair on fire and trying to keep up with, 50 things, you say, you know what? I'm not going to get this done. Let's be real. I say it,
Yeah.
but I'm not. I will pay
Yep.
for shortcuts. I will pay to save time and just throw it to you and you'll just help me get it done.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Awesome. That's sweet that you offer both, right? Because some people just do one or the other.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay. So if you don't do hourly, then do you offer a service where people can, reach out and get advice here and there without having to pay every single time, or in a group setting, or, something like that?
Yeah, so we have our Legalpreneur membership. This is our signature service. We basically provide all access to an attorney for $3.49 a month, and you get literally all access. You can email your attorney. It's unlimited emails. You can
Wow.
have one phone call a month. You get document review every month, a discount on additional services, and then also access to all of our contract templates. And then there's other resources, like we have expert calls every month. So we bring in just another business expert to do a 1 hour training. And then there's a live Q&A with me as well every month. So if you want to hear what other questions people are asking, because hey, if they're asking, then I probably have the same question.
Yeah,
That's
totally.
um that's the Q&A as well. So a lot of resources available in the membership, and that's where a ton of clients get all the help they need every month.
That is sweet. So what is your vision for Legalpreneur? And when you started this out, like, were you like, I want this
Mhm.
to look like what?
Yeah, so when I first started it,
Hmm.
right when COVID hit, it was really just to be this resource company, very, very similar to LegalZoom. Like, hey, we want to provide these
Hmm.
resources, and then I started looking into it more and more. And once we had the Legalpreneur membership. I wanted to bring that into Legalpreneur and really just provide legal access to all business owners, because I know what it's like being the, very small brand new business owner that doesn't even know how much it's going to cost to work with an attorney, but you need some things. And that's the thing about hourly billing. There's so many surprises, and they'll tell you like, "Oh, it's probably this. It's probably going to take this amount of time." But then they're like, "Oh, it actually took a lot longer, so you gotta pay this bill." And it's like, "What the fuck are you talking about? Like, you should have just told me."
Yeah.
And the way that I see it, when you go to the expert
Hmm.
if you go to a trademark attorney to get your trademark done, they should have done this thousands of times. So they're the expert. They should know exactly how long it's gonna take. And that's why it's so easy to do the flat fee model with an expert, because they know the
Mm.
process better than anybody else. It shouldn't
Yeah.
matter how long it takes them, because
They know it inside and out. It's not going to be like, well, for
yes.
you 2 hours and you 5 hours and you 4 hours, and they just know.
Exactly. I despise hourly billing. Like, I remember at the big firm, they're like, "Oh, take your time on this." Bro, if it took me 20 minutes, I don't wanna tell the client it took me 2 hours. So,
Yeah.
hourly billing just has crazy, just bad s bad memories in my head, trauma around that.
Yeah, well, and it's kind of like the whole, I mean, like selling cars. Follow me on this, right? But that used to have such a bad stigma, and now
Mhm.
things are totally changing with how people make it, easier and different to buy and sell cars.
Mhm.
And you just felt like you're, getting taken advantage of walking in the dealer,
Yeah.
or on the showroom. And so same thing with attorneys. Like, people just know, like, go ahead and ramble on and on and on for something because I'm just watching the clock. Like, you just already go into that relationship knowing it's a little adversarial, right? And you
Yeah.
just know there's kind of that conflict of interest. Like,
Mhm.
I want all this stuff, but you want all this time, and I want a little bit of time, but I want all the
Yep.
answers.
Yep,
So yeah, so I think it's
exactly.
really cool how you do it that way.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's what
Yeah.
a lot of people come, after working with me in the law firm and now
Hmm.
Legalpreneur, a lot of people are just like you, like, people just take a deep breath and like, "Oh, it's so nice to know," like, they just feel so comfortable. And like I said earlier, it's not just the fact that I'm this small business attorney, like, I'm also an entrepreneur. So I know what it's like, not just as the attorney, but also as the business owner.
Yeah, that is awesome. That is, and that's very unique. It's definitely very unique, right? All right, I've got about 3 minutes, and then I've got to wrap up and get to the next thing. So, what else should a new business owner, existing business owner need to know? Maybe someone in real estate, from your professional opinion that, hey, are you doing this? Are you doing that? When was the last time you checked
Mhm.
this out? That
Yeah.
I don't even know is a gotcha that's waiting for me.
Yeah. The other big one is copyrights. And copyrights are your creative work or your content. But
Hmm.
the biggest thing that gets people in trouble is using photos that don't belong to you. So if you find this pretty picture on Google or Pinterest and you want to use it on your website or social media, no. That's a big no. That is copyright infringement. And they can come after you years later, even if
Hmm.
hardly anybody saw it, and ask for an ungodly amount of money. So
And people get it?
always take oh, yeah, absolutely. Always take your own pictures or have a proper license to use the photo. So the
Mm.
stock image sites, you pay for the license or use the free stock photo images. Just make sure you have a proper license because that's going to get you in trouble if you don't use photos that belong to you.
That's huge. That's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes it's very easy just to think, well, it's out there, right?
Yeah.
Or I saw it and so it must not be a big deal. People just put it out there. Or maybe
Yeah.
you use, a virtual assistant or a
Yeah.
team, and that team or your VA is going just grabbing stuff. But if you didn't tell
Mhm.
them, make sure
Yeah.
you,
That's on you.
yeah, totally. That's good. That is very good.
Yeah.
And you mentioned licensing. So you work with that as well, like how to license a product or a service.
Yes, and
Yeah.
that this is what I'm trying to educate a lot of content creators around because they don't realize how much they're sleeping on because if you're creating this content or if you're this creative entrepreneur, whatever you're creating, people are willing to pay money for that. Especially really big right now is like all the UGC, like user generated content,
Hmm.
sponsorships from influencers. If the brand wants to use that content as their own, like,
Hmm.
they better be paying you for that, not just for you to post it on your own social media or your own website. They need to also pay you permission to post it on their own social media or website.
Wow. Okay, so I love that idea. I love that concept, and it makes total sense. But it seems like there's a whole lot more to it than that.
Oh,
Like,
so much
how do
more.
you know you set it up? How do you know it's set up right? How do you know what to
Yep.
charge? How do you know how to
Mhm.
enforce it?
Yep.
So is that something you go through with people as well?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
If you're a small business owner, a creative entrepreneur, an online business owner, if you're just a business owner,
Yeah.
you need to come see me.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I'm just thinking about like, oh my God, there's so much that I might not be checking into, or maybe you
Mhm.
just need to have double checked.
Yep.
And well, that's part of your membership too, is that you do an annual like review with
Mhm.
people. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So with our membership, we do an annual business audit. That's
Hmm.
where we go through, dissect your whole business and tell you, hey, these are the holes that you have in your business right now. And then we also do a free trademark search. So we try to, so our membership, legal memberships exist, Legal
Hmm.
Zoom, Rocket Lawyer, they all have them. Where
Hmm.
we differ is we try to take the proactive approach. So a lot of those memberships are, hey, call us when you have an issue.
Yeah.
You can do that with us, but we don't want you to have issues. We want to take care of everything up front.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and again, you're a business owner with multiple products and services and different streams of income. So you kind of know it's not just, hey, I just do this one little leg of law and I
Yeah.
talk about that. You're like, no, we're doing all these different things. So this is what you should be paying attention to as well.
Yep.
All right.
Exactly.
I love it. So we're definitely going to have to get you back on the show,
Let's
dive
do it.
deeper into some get in the weeds a little bit on some stuff. I love it. So where should everyone go to find you right now?
Yeah. So you can find the website, thelegalpreneur.com, Instagram, TikTok, The Legalpreneur. We have the Legalpreneur podcast. And then my personal Instagram is at Andrea Sager Law.
Awesome. Awesome. And the book is coming out November 1st.
Yes. Yep.
And the event is October
5th through the 7th.
5th to the 7th in
Yep.
Phoenix. Love it. Well, thank you for being on.
Thank you for having me. This is
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, you're a wealth of knowledge. You're like that badass tool like that people like don't realize like I got Andrew in my
Oh.
back pocket, right?
Oh, and there's so many things that I can whip out, like
I
golf.
bet.
I actually went to college for bowling, and so people are like, "Let's
What?
go bowling," and I'm like, "Let's go bowling."
Like, okay, I'm not very good at it. And you're like, let me have a couple cocktails, right? And then you just
Yeah.
crush. Nice. All right. All right. We're doing a team bowling day. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. Well, thank you for being on, and have an awesome rest of your day. And you'll be hearing from me on a few things, obviously, very soon.
Perfect. Sounds good. Thank you.
Awesome. Yep, take care. Thanks.